Welcome to the K-Drama Show. I'm Ashley.
And I'm Kim.
We're here to unpack your all-time favorite Korean dramas and chat about all the reasons that we find these shows so charming.
And so addictive. And we know you do too, so settle in with some ramen and a boba tea while we dive into the K-Drama Show with Ashley and Kim.
We're off to a strong start.
We are off to a strong start. I don't know how much banter we're going to have in this one, guys. It is after midnight for us as we record, so we might get some...
I don't know what's going to happen. It might be a little...
rough, or it might be completely fine, and we just...
Alright, hit us with some Ashley tea.
Okay, so the tea, we're talking about it earlier together. Obviously, we know when this episode comes out, this is not new news, but there is a new K-pop group that has recently debuted. They debuted on my birthday, actually, but they're called Big Ocean, and they're super unique because they all have hearing impairments, and they're really adorable. We started to do like some more information, like look up information on them, and so it's a group of 3 guys. So we have Kim Jo-suk, Park Hyo-jin, and Lee Chun-yeon. So Kim Jo-suk was born with a hearing impairment. Park Hyun-jin lost his hearing at 3, and then Lee Chun-yeon lost his hearing at 11. So Lee Chun-yeon has had cochlear implant surgery on both of his ears. Park Hyun-jin has an implant in only one of his ears and wears a hearing aid in the other, and Kim Jo-suk only wears hearing aids. But they're really unique and they're really cool because they know obviously Korean Sign Language because, that's where they're from, but they are also trying to incorporate and learn American Sign Language and International Sign Language for all of their songs. And they dance with a large screen that has a visual metronome to stay on count. They wear watches that beat so that they can dance, and they, in the interview that I was reading, we try to communicate with our eyes to one another. That way we can, stay together, but, it's a lot of really hard work. And they said, we usually talk to each other, but if we end up using sign language, if, somebody doesn't get it, because obviously that's what they're very familiar with. But they're really cute.
They are cute.
Because I think that was their debut song that you had pulled up? And it's kind of fun. And so they do sing. I think they said all of them said that was the hardest thing that they have had to learn, because they all hear everything differently. And then when there's the outside mic on top of everything with their implants and their hearing aids, it kind of messes things up. So we don't always know if we're right on. We have to memorize. We have to count. And that's a lot.
Yeah.
That's a lot to keep in your head.
It's a lot when you can hear properly, and when you're impaired, that's... Yeah. They trained for 1.5 years before, getting to their debut. And the one says that one of the hardest things was not being able to eat and having to stick to such a strict diet. They're cute. One of them had no interest in K-pop. He actually worked as an audiologist at the Korea University Annam Hospital, and then met an actor who also had a hearing impairment, and he became his ambassador and introduced him to the Big Ocean Project. Another one, Park, they just have their surnames. Park was a YouTuber, and so he was already talking about what it's like to live with a hearing impairment, the stigma that comes around it, a lot of misunderstandings that people have, and he was really interested in, that idea. And then Kim was an alpine skier. Hardcore.
And he became interested in acting and arts, and, happened to be introduced to this project. And so it's not really tea, it's more of a cute announcement.
It's cool. It's... Yeah.
Well, they even, made a comment, and I was reading it to Kim of, there's a lot of boundaries that they are
breaking. And they're even like, Korea's like not very fast at figuring this out, how to, you know, not just constantly label disabled people, because when you put that label on us, that's more disabling than what we actually have to deal with every day.
Mm-hmm. Well, in a culture where it's to blend in is to survive, to be different is to not thrive.
Right.
It's kind of cool to see them
break it.
Yeah, just break the glass ceiling a little bit and represent an underappreciated community of people. I think they said they actually debuted on International Disabilities Day. I don't know if it's International or National Disabilities Day, something like that.
It's Korea's Day of People with Disabilities.
There you go. Okay, there's somewhere in there, but
close enough.
When you said though that they communicate with their eyes, I immediately thought of Park Seo-joon, our first annual communication day.
Look into each other's eyes. Park Seo-joon, look into my eyes. Okay. What do you want me to do?
You'd probably go into cardiac arrest.
Have you seen that video of fans meeting Park Seo-joon and like they faint because they're freaking out? So I'll send it to you. It's amazing. They're just, because he's like gonna give him a hug and they're just like, and I'm like, same. I'd be well, I don't know. I might be able to.
I would be such an underwhelming person to meet. Like, if you were a celebrity, I'd just be like, hey.
I mean, I think they prefer that, because then you treat them like a real human being.
But I wouldn't be able to have a conversation with them, because I barely know how to have a conversation with normal human beings.
We do pretty good.
Human beings. Did you say human beings? Yeah, no, human beings. Yeah, human beings. Where's that from?
I don't remember. How about some unhinged theories?
I don't have one.
None? Okay.
No.
I mean, you ended last episode with some pretty big...
That was my last torpedo theory, I think. Unless something big happens in 11, I don't know that I really have a theory anymore.
That's fair.
I did have one theory happen mid-episode, but I feel like I should say it when that happens, because they immediately explain what's going to happen.
Right.
Okay, recap.
Recap. Hit us with the recap.
Episode 9 recap. EunTak had run away from home to a ski resort, and Goblin coordinated with Reaper to find her next death date and rescues her in the 11th hour after a freak accident in the ski shop happens. So she comes home and things get back to normal. Tokwa and Ajima deity, the Ajima deity, have some sort of weird history or familiarity that we don't really know the extent of yet, but they apparently are drinking buddies and use casual speech. So Secretary Kim is being brought into the inner ring, is becoming privy to certain details of Kim Shin and / Goblin. We learn that human will is one force that can contend with the gods' plans for humanity, but we don't know in what capacity yet, but Goblin intends to find out. And then Sunny and Reaper share their moment outside of the chicken shop when their hands touch, and we know that she is some variation of Goblin's sister, the Queen. What we don't know is in what way this will affect everyone and their relationships, and she doesn't seem to be aware herself of this fact, just Reaper. And then I put possibly Goblin through telepathic communication, but they kind of roll that out midway through the episode. But episode 10.
Episode 10. That was a fast recap.
Yeah, that's my goal, is to make them not 10 minutes long.
That is fine. Okay, so we start exactly where we left off in this episode, and Sunny has grabbed Reaper's hand, and he is looking at her, and he is seeing all of her past life, or lives. And he, we see him seeing her as the young queen, and we also see the painting being unrolled, and his first time seeing that, and he's kind of just like realizing, I know who this is now. This is Goblin's sister. Because he's already told us the woman in this painting is my sister. And again, Goblin is inside and he's watching this whole interaction, not knowing what's going on. And EunTak walks up and is like, you're going to bore a hole through that window if you don't stop staring. And he just looks at her and he goes, what kind of person is your boss? And she gets a little bit offended of like, yeah, I've heard that question before from Reaper. And then he asked, how do I get her to like me? And he's like, no, that's not what I mean, though. And she's like, well, what do you want to know? Like, she's beautiful. She's pretty. Like, he's like, yeah, but I'm not looking for someone pretty.
Just like, heard that before, too.
Outside, however, Sunny is asking Reaper, like, what's going on? Are you okay? And she's like, this can't be the first time you've held a woman's hand. And then she kind of, like, throws his hand and was like, okay, so you didn't have a phone number and then you got a phone. And, you get serious when I hold your hand, like, oh my goodness, you're not married, are you? And then he's like, no. And she's like, then you're always wearing black, like, are you part of the NIS, which is the National Intelligence Service, thank you. And he's like, no. And she goes, then are you a Grim Reaper? And he kind of, like, panics of, like,
what do I say?
Crap, I'm caught. And she's like, that was a joke. Clearly you didn't think it was funny. Like, you're not married. You're not part of the NIS. Let's go inside because it's cold. And he just kind of watches her and he's just like, oh, who is this? Like, what did I just go through?
The thing I thought that was interesting was in this version of his recollection, he's seeing it, like, in reverse. So, like, the tears are streaking back into their eyes and things are happening backwards. Like, he's seeing the entirety of this tragedy of their love from the end back to the beginning of it, almost. You know what I mean? Like, between the king and the queen.
Yeah,
It was interesting.
Kind of like VHS tape. I know most of you probably don't know what that is.
We're dating ourselves again.
We are dating ourselves again, but you had to hit rewind and...
We had a special machine.
We always asked for one. We didn't get one, but we were poor. So you had to rewind the entire tape. If you don't know what a tape is, go on Google and look it up. I don't have the time to explain that, and I probably would do a real bad job.
Infants, get off the internet. Kidding.
My 7-year-old nephew knows what a VHS tape is and how to rewind it and put it back in its case because his Aunt Ashy is ridiculous about it. There is no options.
I just realized that 18-year-olds would have been born in 2006.
Isn't that just...
That's when my brother graduated high school. Anyway.
Really? Oh, okay. I would do exactly this. I feel like this with how old I feel now. Sunny goes into her shop, grabs a bottle, and just starts drinking.
You want one too?
Right? And EunTak's kind of like, almost like a, sis, you okay? Like, really, you're gonna drink? And she goes, yeah. And then she asks Goblin why he is continuing to look at her. And he's like, you have the same name as somebody that I know. And also, why do you keep calling me Oroboni? And she's like, what am I supposed to say? Hey, you? Like, do you really want to split hairs right now? I'm really not in a great mood. But he asks her if she knows what kind of man that she is seeing. And EunTak and Reaper kind of panic, and they're just like, dude, shut up. Stop talking. And, she is like, we have the type of relationship that we exchange rings, and Reaper's like, actually, I need you to give me that ring back.
I was like, dude, time and place. What is going on here?
But then Reaper in his room begins to write down a list of truths. 1, Sunny and the woman in the painting have the same face. 2, the woman in the painting is Kim Shin's sister. Then a question. Is Sunny a reincarnation of Kim Shin's sister? Fact number 1. The moment I saw the woman in the painting, I cried. Fact number 2. The first time I saw Sunny, I cried. Then a question. Why did I cry? What is the fact behind my feelings? Is the history of the two of them connected to my erased memories? This is also a maybe. He's doing some real,
big questions there.
And it's almost like when you write something down, it's not weighing on you as much. Mm-hmm. And you feel like you can maybe think about it now because it's been put out into the open.
Yeah. Well, for me, it's like you're worried about these thoughts that happen in passing. One might be real. Mm-hmm. And if you don't write it down, then you're going to lose it. So you're, like, panicking, trying to, like, contain all these thoughts, and then you just can't. So, like, getting it on paper. It's the best way to process.
I agree.
I'm a list person. Can you tell?
No, I have never seen an itinerary for our trips. I love them so much. I really do, because then I actually know what we're doing.
Feel exposed. Okay, so
Go, girl.
EunTak confronts Goblin about his motives and his curiosity with Sunny, because she's got some jealous vibes going on. But she accuses him of setting up the job specifically at Sunny's shop, since she's so pretty, as we pointed out. And he admits that he actually used no magic to set up this job. He just used the power of suggestion on her and admits, and she just happened to find a job at a chicken shop. So she then insists, I can't talk right now. She then insists that she is owed 2 wishes, a part-time job, and a boyfriend. Why are you hung up on the boyfriend? Should I break Taehee's legs to confirm? What did I type? Confirm boyfriend. What does he say?
To confirm whether or not I'm your boyfriend.
Yeah, that's not what I typed.
If I break something, maybe then you'll go, that's right, my boyfriend is a foul-tempered goblin.
And I'm like, bleh. But then he stomps off. And then he stomps back in. And he pats her on the shoulder and then pats her on the head. And he says, I feel bad, since this is the first time that I've really seen you since you have come home. And then she smiles and slinks off to her room. Next day, with Sunny, Reaper asks if he can borrow the ring, but just temporarily, which is a step up from taking it back. So he can complete some research. And he asks why it is exactly that she chose this ring, but she says she simply chose it so that she had a reason to talk with him that day. She hands it to him, but he hesitates, and she just places it on the table because,
she's kind of figured that out with him.
Skinship. But he thanks her, and she asks just that he share the research with her, and she just leaves to go to work, No long goodbyes this time. But back at the house, Goblin asks if he's okay, since he is currently dousing his salad with red pepper. But he asks if, while holding Sunny's hand, he saw maybe an old enemy from a past life. And Reaper says, don't ask me, it's their own privacy, and even if I did see it, I can't say anything about it, it's one of the rules. Goblin comments on Reaper's clear conscience, which is strange since he won't come clean about being a Reaper to Sunny, but Reaper says he should take it easy since they're kind of in the same boat. To which Goblin replies, what do you mean the same boat? Mine is fateful love, and you should quit putting ketchup on tofu.
It looked so unappetizing.
Yes.
It looked...
I looked away.
Very uncomfortable.
But Goblin reveals that his sister's name is Kim Shin, but he doesn't know if she's actually been reincarnated since her death. So Reaper asks what Goblin would do with this info, since she won't remember her past life anyway. But Goblin says he just wants to know that she was okay. My little rascal.
Oh, receiving love.
Yeah.
And she was pretty. My little rascal. Well, then we get more of the story. And we go back in time. And actually, EunTak walks up during this, and she just she's full on eavesdropping.
She's being a fly on the wall, yeah.
But also, this is helping her understand him a lot more.
This is the only way she's ever able to get anything from him. Because he doesn't want to open up to her.
Right.
So.
And so he begins to tell the story of his life and his life with his sister. And just the story of his sister that he can remember. So, he was a general in Koryo. He was killed by the blade of the master he was protecting. And he's like, so he tells the story of the young king, basically. And he says
he's never told it before either.
Right, he's like, this is not something I'm used to talking about. And, he goes, a baby was born, and when he was born, a father who was a king had already passed. His mother was lowly born, and she died from an illness. The older brother was old enough to be the king, or to be his father, was the king, and there was no one at his side. Just Park Jong-won, who was his teacher, and he was a professor. And after this child met Park Jong-won, things started to happen. People started to die around him, basically. People next in line, the people who were investigating, and they all, it's believed that everybody died due to a hereditary illness, and then it's learned that they were all poisoned. And then we see Kim Shin in his general garb sitting in front of the king, and he's watching him drink, we can assume it's a bowl of medicine. And the king kind of like hesitates, but then he asks Kim Shin, if Yo ascends to the throne, I want him to marry your little sister, and I want you to protect him. Make him walk the righteous path, prevent him from making wrong decisions, and more than anything, prevent him from dying. That by my not being here, I am protecting him, and as your master, I'm giving you a command, like, this is like the king's command, and I want you to forgive me. And he's like, done. I'll do it.
I think that he knows that the tea he's drinking is poisoned.
I think so too.
And that in his willingness to drink the tea, this is his last protection of his little brother.
Yeah.
But in another show, and I don't know if this carries over, if this was just a exaggeration or an embellishment based on the show, but they say that the king's dying words are set in stone. Like their final words are basically law.
There's nothing you can do about it.
And so by him saying, my brother marries your sister,
this is my dying wish.
Right. It is law. It is set in stone.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
they're treated as God's final words.
Right. Yeah, I know I've seen that in a couple other shows that are more historical or period. Like, I don't remember if it necessarily says it specifically in this one, but yeah, it's basically the same.
But again, I don't have any actual sources to back that up, so
no, this could all just be
embellishment.
So Reaper actually kind of butts in and asks if the man Park Jong-won was poisoning everyone over a long period of time, and if the child became king, and why. And so Goblin says by the time this child barely had time to put on royal clothes, he had been made king. And we hear Park Jong-won say, they say that I cannot become the king because there's a separate royal lineage, so I will raise and make a king myself, and put the world at this king's feet, and put that king at my feet. Therefore I put the whole country at my feet. May you be well for 1,000 years.
And the smile he gives the child while he's being crowned.
Yeah.
He's like, my precious.
Yeah, he is Gollum.
Yeah, it's weird.
But then, this young king is grown up. He's not, 7 years old anymore. And he's being told that his marriage date has been set. That it's to General Kim Shin's younger sister. And he's kind of like, okay, I mean, I guess. Because he's so young himself.
Mm-hmm.
And Park Jong-won, who is his advisor, who is actually the same advisor from episode 1, who was like, this man is a traitor. He's trying to overthrow your majesty.
Mm-hmm.
But he's throwing a fit because this is a variable that he was not expecting to have in his plans, and he's finding it very inconvenient that the late king said that this is supposed to be, who he marries. And so then we cut to the soon-to-be queen walking with the bowls on her shoulders to practice, and that's for posture.
Yeah, she's probably going through etiquette classes.
Probably, with the book on your head, and yeah, you have to be. I certainly don't want to practice with porcelain bowls. That sounds terrifying. But then we see the young king peeking over the wall at her, and she sees him. She gets distracted and then takes a step, and the bowls fall.
Mm-hmm.
And at the same time, Kim Shin is watching this interaction of the young king finding his younger sister charming. Yeah. So
I feel like as he's watching this, he's a little bit sad.
Mm-hmm. I think so too.
Because he knows that his sister is being pulled into this world of politics and poisonous teas and people gunning for the throne.
Right.
He doesn't want that for her.
No.
He didn't ask for this. He chose a life of military service, but she didn't need to be pulled into it, and now
she has no
that's
choice.
her whole life. Yeah.
Right. So then we see Kim's son, his little sister, being brought to the palace. And she opens the little window of her
palanquin.
Is Is that how we decided it's supposed to be?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, perfect. And she like sticks her hand out, and then she sees her brother walking next to her, and they have this little conversation, and she's like, you know, do I look pretty today? And he tells her, no, you look ugly.
Like a true big brother.
Like a true big brother. And she's like, well, then that must mean the path that I'm going down to get married, you know, must be pretty because of how much you treasure me. And then her next question, which is, I feel highly appropriate when you're that young. What does the king look like? And he's like, really, you care more about his looks than his character? And she was like, kinda, yeah. And he's like, don't worry, he's, you know, his appearance is very bright. And then she goes, you know, again, like, do I look pretty today? And he just is like, no, you look ugly. She's like, okay, then I'm gonna go home because I must not be pretty in the king's eyes. And he's like, yeah, no, well, he's seen you, and that's not the case.
He thought you were ugly too.
Yeah. So go home. And she tells him, you need to visit your ugly sister more often. And he tells her, my life is on the battlefield, and so here no news is good news.
Mm-hmm.
And she's like, don't worry, I know. Don't worry about me, I'll be happy.
Well, you see the beginning of Kim Sun's new life in the palace. Must be the wedding night.
Or shortly after, yeah.
But she's kind of wandering through. She's in a hurry because she's excited to see the king. This is exhilarating to her. It's every rags to riches little girl's dream of being a princess, you know?
Well, and she's seen his face before, so she knows.
She knows now that she's interested in him.
Yes.
And he's interested in her.
Mm-hmm.
So we just kind of see this innocent young love that is sprouting between these two because she's running through the palace and smacks into somebody and loses her balance, and he catches her, and he's just holding her. They're looking into each other's eyes, and then he goes, you're getting a little heavy. Pop.
Typical, like, never had any experience type of...
Nope. No, no. Anyway, back in the palace, Park Jung-won, he warns King Yo that treasuring the queen will endanger her, which is ironic coming from him. But he insists that the court official that made comments about the lowliness of the queen's family ought to be put to death. And the queen calls Jung-won into her quarters and questions his actions, as we learn that the king did put that official to death. And she's going, that wasn't necessary.
Right.
And he speaks out against her and calls her a curse word and then threatens her with her brother's life. Like, hey, you might think you wear the crown, but I'm the one who pulls the strings around here. I put that crown on your head.
Well, and he even is like...
Well, he says that they're saying that there's two kings in one kingdom. Two suns in one sky. If that's not treason, then what is? Again, ironic coming from...
Well, because he even tells her, like... Because she says, you know, stop covering the king's eyes. And he goes, did I really cover his eyes? Or did he close them himself? Like, this man is a snake in the grass. He loves this game.
He sows seeds of deception and of unrest. And
oh, yeah. If I can... Sprinkle a little bit more.
A little poison here and there. Yeah, he's good at undermining. It's true. But King Yo presents Kim Shin with the broadsword again, and we hear him tell him to leave, to not come back. And Kim Shin reminds him of the fact that he's loyal to this crown, and he reminds him, the king reminds Shin that his role is not to worry about matters that are for the king, which is a sensitive topic since Jung-won's ideas have since tainted this relationship between the two of them. But the king tells Shin to send news of his heroic death on the battlefield, and he will send word that he laments it. It is the king's order. But Kim Sun pleads with King Yo to bring Kim Shin back to his side and to push away Park Jung-won, which is a bold move on her part. Very bold. That is youthfulness at play here, because if you understood politics, you would know that you need to have people backing you to protect you before you made a play like that against the guy who's killed every other single person.
And is standing there in front of you,
yes,
next to the king.
To defend himself. But the poison has just spread too far at this point, so the king now believes that Kim Shin is the people's king and threatens his throne. Would he protect me or stab me with that sword? And Jungwon then pleads with the king to just strike down Kim Shin for his threat to the royal family. And then again, we witness Kim Shin approaching the king in the courtyard again, and Jungwon's whisperings to the king, and Kim Shin just thinks back to his last view of his sister just before she died.
Well, yeah, he says,
sad.
It's so sad because he goes, that place was my last battle and I was to die there. I returned in violation of the royal command. I disregarded the young king's jealousy and fears. But I could not forget that the late king's plea to protect him, and I needed to save lives of the innocent. And above all else, my sister was protecting that dummy's life with her life. Ugh. So sad, really, because again, he's never told this story before. And then he actually apologizes to Reaper, and he's like, I'm really sorry that I've been going on and on and on in front of somebody who doesn't have any memory. And so then Reaper pulls out the jade ring and goes, have you seen this before? And he's like, did you take back that ring to give it to me? I don't think I want that type of relationship with you. He's like, no, I need you to look at it. Have you ever seen this before? And he goes, are you my sister? Son, are you receiving love? I mean, he doesn't know anything. He's just really spilled his guts of...
For the first time ever.
In 900 years.
In the whole show. Yeah, that too.
So then EunTak actually walks in and she pretty much just lets them know, like, I'm leaving, I'm gonna go. And Goblin's like, yeah, but we're set now, so where are you going? Because I'm supposed to go with you. And so they actually go to Paju to see Jonghyun, the student that's been in the library and, one of EunTak's friends, really. And she then tells Goblin that he goes with flowers, that he's her style, that he has a good personality. And he's like, did I do something wrong? And she's like, no. He's like, did you do something wrong? No. And he's like, okay, well, how am I your style then? She goes, you're strange and beautiful. Because he doesn't know that she's just listened to his whole story, and so he's needing comfort and encouragement, because that's what she tells him it is. And they end up getting to where Jonghyun has been laid to rest, and EunTak's looking at it and places the flowers and see that there's actually a picture there, and in that picture is her mother. And she runs to Goblin's like, library now, like, we have to go. And so they rush to the library, and EunTak finds her little ghosty friend and goes, like, did you know my mom? How did you know my mom? And she's like, yeah, I knew your mom.
Well, she's panicking because she thinks she's fulfilled her last wish.
Right.
And she's like, I gotta get there before she disappears.
I need to see you before you leave me.
Yeah.
Especially if you knew my mother, like, how's and she's like, your mom and I were friends, and we, would talk about how we would have babies together one day, and we'd buy pretty clothes, and that didn't get to happen for me. So I got to look over you. And she's like, you stayed because my mom was your friend. She's like, I stayed because I got to watch you grow up, basically, and I got to be there for you.
So sad.
And she goes, and I couldn't, buy you pretty things, but I could protect what's in this locker for you. And she goes, the code is 486, and she opens the locker, and it is a stack of bank books, and it is all of the books that EunTak always told her aunt that she never had.
Because she didn't.
And Jonghyun just tells her, like, I can go now, and I can go tell your mom about how well you grew up. And she's so...
The look on EunTak's face when she realizes that the reason that she had been lingering for 30-some years was because of EunTak and not because of the flowers was heartbreaking.
Well, and like realizing that she had her own guardian that was there for her her whole life.
And she...
Somebody that knew who she was.
Well, she'd never been loved that selflessly before. Even Goblin kind of sucks at it. I mean,
completely.
He's a vindictive human who's kind of was self-serving at the beginning. I mean, he's learning, he's growing up, but for her to not be upset or spiteful toward EunTak for having had to stay behind to deliver this money to her just before she became an adult and could use it, was her mother's love pouring through her.
Yeah, well, and she was a teenager when she died.
Yeah.
Like, that's... I mean, obviously you're dead and I guess you can mature as a ghosty, but...
Yeah, that's what I'm saying, like 30-some years.
That's... Yeah. And she's just kind of, like... Because she even makes the cute comment of, like, yeah, back in my day we did use an iron to laminate things. And it was just... And so they have this insanely sweet goodbye, and EunTak's just like, like, thank you for everything.
Yeah. Basically.
And she's like, when you go, I hope that you and my mom stay friends. That was a cry.
Tearjerker.
Tear moments.
So, to back up a little bit,
yes,
the
please.
Code for the locker was 486, which for some reason I googled.
I love when you do that, though.
It means saranghae. So it's like using 143 in texting, because those are the number of letters in
each word.
So 486 is saranghae. Cute.
So cute. And then this is where I don't have any notes, because I was the unprepared one today, y'all.
I'm just relieved it's not me for once.
I
have no problems with you being the one showing up without full notes today.
The first time in how many episodes?
However many, 20-some. Anyway, we'll cling to this moment. But Secretary Kim comes to meet with Goblin, says that he needs him to care for EunTak's money since she's not actually a legal adult yet, and technically EunTak's aunt, as her benefactor, could take this money from her. So he says, do what you need to do, make this happen. So Secretary Kim pulls this off by going to the jail where EunTak's aunt is currently being held. He gets her to confess on tape that she had committed fraud, essentially, with her assets. And so now Secretary Kim offers her two options. One, return the money, or two, pay back the child rearing expenses that you were given over the years.
Right.
So she suggests that she knows some pretty questionable people that could do some pretty questionable things to him, and he just stops and he gives her this look. And he retaliates that he has been to some darker places than she has. And I put, lol.
Oh.
But his mission was his other mission was to go work... What? His other mission was to deliver the news to Dokwa that he would be starting an entry-level position within his grandfather's company.
Yes.
Shortly. I can only imagine how that conversation went.
That would have been a fun conversation to listen to.
Be a fly on the wall.
Absolutely.
But Reaper is retrieving his hat from the dry cleaners. He's kind of reflecting on Kim Sun's first life when Sunny calls him. But all he's stewing about this, you see the smoke start to billow as he's like icing over. But then his phone rings and he pulls it out and it's just coated in ice. So he's like, okay, hurry, defrost.
Faster.
But he answers and they have this conversation. He says he might need to hold her hand again. And she's just like,
okay,
when can I see you? So Reaper, he's gotten ready at the house. He's getting ready to leave, and Goblin, on his way out the door, recognizes the outfit as the one that he had the vision of Reaper being dumped in. And he asks him, could you just not wear that coat today? And Reaper's like, why? No, just stop. He's like, well, that request was to try to help you avoid your fate, but all right, bye.
You look weird.
Have a good one.
Sunny has, gotten ready for because it's New Year's Eve, for their date, and Reaper, is avoiding everybody as they walk past him so he can rush up and meet her.
Have you ever seen Monk?
Yes.
That was Monk.
That was Monk. If
Trench
you've
coat
never
and
seen
everything.
Monk, it's on Netflix. It's hilarious. It's amazing. He apologizes to her, like, I'm so sorry I'm running late. And then, first thing, can I hold your hand? And
She's like, hasty there,
well,
mister.
you need to calm down. And she's like, yeah, I would like to hold your hand, too. But I still don't know what your name is. And I'll let you off the hook for the remaining 2 hours of this year because you're handsome. And he, just like, oh, well, crap. And, she's like, well, then I guess we're going to end things now, basically. And she's like, I like, that you're chivalrous, you're a bit of a nerd, and don't call me anymore. Happy New Year. And walks off. And at 11:30 p.m., New Year's Eve, actually, EunTak walks into Goblin's room and is like, let's go.
Well, no, he's knocking on her door at 11:30.
Oh,
and
yeah.
then it's like 2 minutes before.
Oh, that's what
she
it is.
comes to his...
See, this is what I get for not having my stuff done.
No, you're good.
Ah, okay.
Trust me, I've been there 50 bajillion times. I got you.
Rewind. Okay. 11:30, Goblin is knocking on EunTak's door, and he's waiting in a coat and scarf. And he decides to give up, goes and lays on his bed, pouting. And right before midnight, EunTak runs into his room, and he's, dark clouds, Eeyore.
Still in his coat.
Still in his coat and scarf. And she's like, they, watch the clock chime midnight, and she's like, the new year means that I'm now an adult. Let's go, we have plans. And he's like...
Rude.
Well, yeah, a little bit, but then he's like, okay, so what do you want to do? And she goes, alcohol, ponjang matcha, soju.
And romance.
And romance. And so they go out, and EunTak takes her first shot of soju, and just is like, oh, that's bitter.
I love that she says romance, and they end up in, like, one of those street vendor tents.
I cannot wait to drink in one of those next year, because we are going. So he pours her another shot, and she also downs it in one go. And as they're drinking, there's the cyclist that Goblin had injured, because he almost caused a bus accident.
Why did I think that was Tehi Oppa?
I don't know, but it was the cyclist.
No, that was Tehi.
No, because he has the broken hand,
Oh my gosh.
the pickpocket.
I was like, why did he get so psycho all of a sudden? He was this really suave.
Adorable.
And then he shows up with a gang. Okay. Wow.
This is the perk of me seeing it several times on top of it.
Okay.
No, that was the cyclist, but he has brought his gang, and he's ready to throw down with Goblin. And
I wrote in my notes that it was Tehi, but you know how it autocorrects to Tehi? So it says here, Tehi Oppa walks in with a broken hand and bags under his eyes. Tehi announces he's going to die that day. Sorry. Okay, I'm done.
I love the autocorrect.
It's ruining my life. Sorry.
No, you're good. So,
I love though how Goblin's like, our battlefield is outside.
yeah,
Follow me.
we aren't doing this here. Like, let's go. And the Ajumma that's running the tent, like, looks at EunTak and she's like, is he gonna be okay? And she's like, believe me, he's the last person you need to be worried about.
But he doesn't walk out the front door. He teleports.
He just
through the wall.
Thump.
And they're like, what? And the guy's just like, I told you he was weird.
It's true. So they are outside, and Goblin actually takes a mop and
His weapon of choice.
his weapon of choice, and he's like, "Okay, y'all." Like, I'm not. He doesn't say y'all, but what? Like, I used to be a warrior, and I'm not gonna go easy on you guys.
Mm-hmm.
That's just not gonna happen. And the whole group comes at him. He breaks the head off of the mop and just has this stick and just
Spanks him.
beats them hilariously. And the
Yep.
whole time, EunTak's just kind of like, looking out, takes another shot, looks up, takes another shot.
This could be a regular Friday night thing for them, you know?
Yeah. And so she's just like, woohoo, this is a great time. Not worried at all.
But the last jab goes where the sun does not shine. And he's just laying there on his back, and as his friends, like, pick him up to carry him off, they rack him on a tree.
You know what this says? Adding insult to injury, the cyclist buddies accidentally ram his family jewels into a tree.
Gosh. Awful. But hilarious and deserved.
And completely deserved. He almost killed 50 plus
Everybody.
people. Yeah, like he's...
Including his bride.
Yeah, I know. Nay, friend. So, Goblin goes back into the little tent, and she's definitely farther than tipsy at this point.
Yeah.
And, because this is also, her first time drinking. And she tells him there's one thing left, and that's a first kiss. And she goes, our first kiss was just a peck, and...
No. Stop.
I'll get through it fast. She tells him not to move, and he's like, nope, and he tries to freeze time, and it doesn't work. And she takes her little seat, and
It works, but not on her.
yes, she takes her seat and sits next to him. She's like, did you forget that I'm your bride? Like, that doesn't work on me. And they have a much better, quote, first kiss.
Better for who? Because it
Well-
wasn't better for me.
Not for Kim. Back home.
She doesn't suddenly get more mature a day later. I'm sorry. Cool, she's legal. Still a child. Okay, I'm done.
We're almost there, I promise. To her being aged up. Kim doesn't believe me.
He leans back and kisses her, and I put, and it's still really weird, but at least she is an adult, question mark.
I mean, she is. Technically.
By 3 minutes.
Legally.
Okay,
Okay.
I'll shut up.
I don't blame you.
Cut to Reaper sulking in his room because his love life is in shambles.
Well, and he's not sure if he got dumped or if he did the dumping.
Yeah, it just happened so fast.
He's just like,
He's sad panda.
what? He is sad panda.
I don't blame him. He doesn't really understand what he did wrong.
But he knows he did something.
Yeah.
So the next morning, or I guess technically it's the same morning, EunTak wakes up and she begins to prepare traditional food for the new year. And she's like, I bought good beef using the money that I earned at the ski resort. And then also tells Reaper, I also have options for you because he, doesn't eat meat.
Mm-hmm.
And she's like, the only thing that I am missing is green onion. So Goblin and Reaper are like, okay, we can do this. We got this.
No. What happens before that? So she's making breakfast as thanks for everything up until this point. And she says to them, it just seems like yesterday when you guys were walking toward me like models in the night fog. And Goblin just beams at her like,
yeah.
oh, yes, I'm amazing. And she goes, back then you guys were so dashing amidst being scared. You still looked so dashing. And they mention, they kind of look at each other and they're like, well, you can't have rice cake soup without green onion.
Mm-hmm.
And then they just kind of scurry off to their rooms on each side of the house. And then we hear the theme song play. And then it's just them slow walking down a tunnel carrying green onion in their shopping bags.
Each have 2 bags.
Just of green onion.
Doing the same walk from when she had been kidnapped in the car.
I squealed. I was like, no, they didn't. It was so funny. So well done.
And needed.
Yes.
And needed.
Yeah, that is kind of sucky episode. Just kidding.
But then they have a motorcyclist come behind them, beeping the horn like, get on the sidewalk.
Saying some rude things. And they're just like, wow, what a friendly guy telling us to get on the sidewalk. Have a great day, sir.
Happy New Year.
Both socially unaware.
Oh. But also, that is definitely the response you would rather have them give you. I'm going to call your name 3 times.
Lone Shark special.
Ooh, yes, yes. So, EunTak ends up wishing them a Happy New Year after she's, completed the soup.
Mm-hmm.
And Goblin's like, yeah, same to you. And this is when Reaper breaks the news that he and Sunny are no longer an item.
Mm-hmm.
EunTak gets all the information and then ends up telling him, yeah, this is why Sunny dumped you.
Mm-hmm.
She wants you to call her.
Mm-hmm.
And Goblin's like, okay, we can make this work.
I love the Goblin, though. He's like, be strong, fighting. That's how everyone grows up. At age 300, it's the toughest time, but it's okay. And he pats his hand. And then Reaper, he goes to grab Goblin's hand. He's like, it's best to get answers from the ones closest to the situation. And he grabs his hand and interlocks fingers with him. And Goblin gay panics. and Reaper's just like, didn't work anyway. I'm just gonna leave. And so EunTak's like, should I erase the sensation? And she blows on his hand. And he's just like, it's disinfected now, thank you.
I'm okay now.
Weird, but alright.
Well, it's because he threatens to cut it off because it's now disgusting.
It's been touched.
It's been tainted. A little bit later in the day, Goblin grabs Reaper and he's like, we're gonna go get some roasted sweet potatoes. And who happens to be there other than EunTak and Sunny? And Reaper's like, okay, cool, thanks, bro. Not subtle at all. But when he actually sees Sunny, he doesn't say anything. And Sunny ends up telling him, like, we agreed to not even acknowledge the other person, even if we saw them.
Mm-hmm.
And
which I think was just his way of trying to be respectful to her of what she said. He doesn't understand, though, that this is a situation in which you say hello.
Right. But Goblin makes a comment that between Reaper's coat and Sunny's coat, they look like a fried egg.
No, that's between EunTak and Sunny. They look like a fried egg.
Is that not what I said?
Oh, I thought you said Reaper and Sunny.
Yeah, because it's Sunny's yellow coat and then Reaper's white coat. So they're the fried egg.
No.
Yeah, she's wearing one too, but he's talking about...
Oh, he calls them the fried egg, and then he calls them bean sprouts.
Yes.
She looks like the head, and he looks like the stalk.
Right.
Epic fail.
Epic fail. Please don't compare me to food.
No, not a bean sprout, at least.
No. Terrible. Well, then afterwards, EunTak is kind of scolding Goblin of like, really, you couldn't bring money to pay for that? And you...
Multi-millionaire.
And you had Sunny pay for all of this? Buddy.
Her boss. Oh.
Buddy, no.
No. Like, pause the time, go to an ATM, bring the money back.
Right.
Why do they not use that more often?
I don't know. I don't have
My
an
voice
answer.
got really high-pitched, I'm sorry.
You got passionate about it.
I did. I'm mad.
But I do love that Reaper comes out amongst all of this and he goes, my concept for today was to be an angel. I'm wearing white.
How's that going for you?
I mean, it was a nice change considering he's always in black. And he looks very good in white, too, so...
He does. He looks good in everything.
That's true. He's a very handsome man.
He is. Goblin is busy reflecting on their time in Canada while he munches one of the sweet potatoes that Sunny paid for. When he remembers EunTak looking at a table of necklaces, but she had to leave without anything because clearly the man doesn't carry cash on him.
Mm-hmm.
But he recognizes one of the necklaces at the table as something that she had bought to wear to the lunch with the CEO, the mystery CEO, from his vision.
Mm-hmm.
And he just kind of starts to chuckle to himself, and he's like, so I was supposed to buy that for her. Got it. And he teleports to Canada for the necklace in flip-flops. Bold choice.
As you do.
Meanwhile, Reaper is consulting a psychologist he has reaped, who is sitting in front of a cup of Oblivion tea, just like, what do I do?
Mm-hmm.
And he gives him some pretty good advice. He's like, maybe you just need to take a step back, examine before you move forward, and whatever. Then Reaper says thank you for your time. And the psychologist is like, I guess you're my last patient. I really wish that I hadn't whiled away my youth becoming a doctor, but here we are now. I'm glad that I could help you. And then he drinks the tea. It was kind of a weird, sad moment.
It was kind of sad.
But Goblin returns home to ShinWoo, waiting for him in the house. And he came to play a game of Paduk with Goblin. And in parentheses I put, he's totally dying.
Okay, that's what you were talking about.
But he starts to comment about how, this needs polished, this should get done, I'll make sure that it gets done at this time and whatever. And then I was like, oh yeah, guy's got 1 foot in the grave. ShinWoo and Goblin are playing when Goblin drops the bead just mid-move and just stares at ShinWoo with shock.
Mm-hmm.
And where the bead lands, ShinWoo's like, I win. This is amazing. This never happens. And he's just so tickled with the fact that he won this game. But we see the chairman at a different time getting a haircut from a barber. And the barber asks, are you going somewhere nice? And the chairman just says, yeah, I think I am. And then it just slowly pans out. And you're like, don't do this to me.
I can't.
I can't handle the emotional distress right now.
Please keep going, because I'm trying to catch up.
Oh, sure, sorry. So Reaper and Goblin are sharing a drink, and Reaper asks if Goblin has shared the info with ShinWoo or Dokwa. But Goblin just says, this is just the cycle of life. I've seen people come and go. It is what it is. People who know that their end is coming, they're filled with regrets anyway. People that don't know, they're filled with regrets. It's
Right.
just the way it is. So Reaper asks Goblin what he senses about Sunny. And he says he senses that she's too small for the name that she carries. And he starts to criticize her. But Reaper kind of warns him against this, since he says she's a reincarnation of Kim Sun. Goblin asks if he's really sure that this is the case and asks him to describe what he saw when he touched Sunny's hand. And Reaper describes her death. But Goblin kind of suggests that maybe this is just because of what he had described to Reaper in different stages of their relationship. And he goes on to describe Kim Sun smiling at someone through the window and asking if she looks pretty. And there's a voice that answers, "You're ugly." And they say this at the same time. Reaper and Goblin do. And the two just kind of stare at each other incredulously, and you just hear Goblin go, "It's her." And we end the entire episode with an image of the sickly king, the older brother of King Yo. Is that the older version of Yo?
Yes, it is.
Well, they don't tell you that. Well, then obviously Reaper is him.
Or somebody with the same face.
That's episode 10.
That's episode 10, everybody. I may have broke him.
Hang on. Then why would the Ajuma deity say that they were fated to have a tragic love?
Well, his love didn't survive.
Whose love didn't survive? The king?
Yeah.
But why would he say that to Reaper and to Sunny?
The Ajuma?
Yeah, because he has to be the king. Anyway. I still commit to the theory that Reaper is the king. That's all I have for my unhinged theory. I'm feeling a little bit unhinged right now. I swore that was the older brother. And then I started thinking, well, did he have a thing for Sunny, for Kim Sun? Which is weird, but would track with the whole Goblin wanting to marry someone 900 years younger than him. I I am spiraling.
Yes, you are.
It is way too late in the evening to be having this conversation.
It is 1:25 in the morning.
Okay, so your character of the hour, while I process this.
Okay.
Do you want me to go?
Yeah, go ahead. Because there's different moments where different characters have. There's like moments where I'm like, yeah, Goblin would be my character of the hour. Like, you get so much more of his story. But then he's also just obnoxious.
Not wrong.
But then Reaper, because he is having to process all sorts of information, and he got Goblin to open up, and we get more answers through him, and he doesn't hold it back. I mean, he holds back what he can for a while because he's trying to confirm and be like, yes, this is true, but then he doesn't be like, no, I'm not going to tell Goblin that Sunny, I think, is the reincarnation of his sister. He's
just trying not to give false hope or something.
Right. He's trying to make sure that he is correct in his... But he's even, like, coming to terms with things himself of, like, okay, fact, this is who this is. Fact, this is what I've, how I felt. This is, these are the truths. And so, I mean, I kind of bounce back and forth. But even, like, EunTak, she's not as much of a key player in this episode.
Yeah, because it's all Goblin's history.
Right.
Mine, I think, is actually the friend that stayed with EunTak on behalf of her mom. Not that she had a choice, but her attitude toward it was admirable. Like I said, decades just wandering around.
Right.
And needing her to kind of figure it out herself.
Right.
But I thought it was really sweet.
Yeah, she would be
She's
up there.
Final thoughts.
Well, we finally have a lot of answers. I mean, we have answers about Goblin's past. Who the queen is. Who Sunny is. We're getting closer to a point of actually the story of actually, like, vaulting forward.
Yeah.
Because you haven't watched past this episode.
Mm-mm.
Right. So.
I'm in the dark.
More questions?
I don't know. I feel like I have just kind of stagnated.
Again?
With the plot. They need to develop Reaper and Sunny. They need to have like a come to Jesus meeting. She needs to know that he's Reaper. The class kind of fallen off the face of the earth. Are they going to age her up soon within the next couple of episodes?
If I remember correctly, yes.
Okay. That'll make me feel better.
Do I need to look up what episode she ages up in?
It's gay. I just feel like I'm ready for things to start resolving. And I think they're priming to do that. They're priming themselves to do that. It's just taken a really long time. This has been kind of a slow burn.
A little bit, yeah.
But at the same time, it's not. I enjoy a good plot twist if they can do it really well. I'm just hoping that all of this anticipation pays off.
Well, and there's enough with all the different characters going on that it's not like...
Yeah.
It's just taking forever.
I am glad that the only spoiler that I really had for myself has already been
dealt with.
And it was something early on and not a major endgame spoiler.
I was so sad when it got spoiled for you, though. I was like, no, I wanted to hear your response.
Yeah, but...
That's okay.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm excited. It's kind of fun not knowing, but at the same time, it's just like, get on with it.
I need to know.
I need to have answers. But anyway.
Okay. Well.
On to 11.
On to 11.
And
maybe
12.
not today.
Not today. But be on the lookout for episode 12. We will be doing a real-time reaction for me because apparently it's a goodie.
I'm very excited for 12.
Very nervous for 12. Is it going to break my heart? Or is it going to be exciting?
Yes.
Okay. Alright.
I'm trying not to spoil as much as possible.
Alright, we'll see you guys next time.
Like what you're hearing? Go ahead and hit that subscribe button so that you don't miss out on any new episodes. We'd love to connect with you on our Instagram at The KDrama Show. For more behind-the-scenes content, be sure to check out our YouTube channel. Links are in the show notes. Thanks for hanging out with us on The KDrama Show with Ashley and Kim, and we'll see you next time.